Welcome everybody at World Hackathon 2016. My name is Dol van Dijvenbode. I'm a journalist based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and we are at the RDM-werf in Rotterdam. Welcome gentlemen. We have the final discussion today with three gentlemen, Michiel, Haarman and Albert Veenstra. Thank you for being here. We had a very interesting day. I talked with captains of vessels, I talked with guys who worked at custom, I talked with experts from also another vessel, and a lot of people who had a lot of challenges, and everybody has one big goal here: face these challenges, face our future, I think. So I'm very interesting, well, what your discussion is. Let's have a short introduction. Michiel.
Yes, my name is Michiel. I'm Managing Director of Smartport. Smartport is the institute in the port of Rotterdam that combines and organizes all the research related to the port.
Okay, second Michiel.
The second Michiel is Michiel Haarman. I am a program manager within the top sector logistics, and our main purpose is to improve the way we share data in the logistics industry. That's my main ambition, our ambition.
To share data, and because I heard that there is a lack concerning that. A lot of people said that today we don't share enough and we don't communicate enough.
We recognize it within our sector, and the ambition is to overcome the barriers for sharing that data on a technical area, in what I call the softer areas of trust, legal barriers that could be for sharing data. And also we stimulate people in programs to actually start doing it, because once you start doing it, you will soon figure out that the barriers can be overcome. So technology, soft areas, and experiments. That's what we do.
Okay, Albert Veenstra.
Yeah.
Which company are you from?
I am a scientific director of Dynalog, the Dutch Institute for Advanced Logistics. And my organization is responsible for funding and carrying out the research roadmap for the top sector logistics. So basically we fund a lot of research projects in various roadmaps on cooperation in logistics, on service logistics, synchromodality, smart IT. Yeah, that's my role.
You will have the final discussion with the three of you. I will not participate in it, but I do want to mention the topics which you shared with me to discuss. That is, one, the Internet of Things; two, the log change; the smart data factory, number 3, and 4, the iShare. Before, because I can imagine it's all your branch and you are all familiar with it, can we just go through them very shortly so everybody who's watching and doesn't know them knows what it's about?
Yes.
So, the Internet of Things, the first one.
Yeah, the Internet of Things is a very interesting one. It means all kind of ways to generate and find data. So many sensors are now applied on containers, ships, in roads, etc. How can you really grasp that information, that data, and use that to optimize processes like logistics, like energy? So Internet of Things is really getting all the data together and combine it in one internet system.
Okay. Log change.
Blockchain.
Blockchain.
Blockchain. Ah.
Blockchain.
Okay.
Well, of course, people are aware of what this technology or this idea can do in the financial industry already. With the Bitcoin is the best example. But we believe that blockchain can also be a potential solution for sharing data in the logistics industry. And we want to discuss how promising it is, how soon it will be available for operations. So, blockchain.
Blockchain, okay.
What I like about the explanation of blockchain is digital trust. That's another word for blockchain. It's something that's really of importance, I think, for our discussion today.
Yeah.
Digital trust.
And I'm very curious if we will ever reach that level, actually. The third one, smart data factory.
Yeah, actually that's more Michiel's business, but smart data factory, I think, is a program, or could be a program that will help us achieve some of the ambitions that the other Michiel has just formulated. We want to share more data, and we want to make it easier for companies to share data among themselves, but also with government. And for that you need to know more about how data sharing actually works. And you need to have more experience, but you also need to be able to develop the technical solutions that we are lacking at the moment. And I think the ambition of Smart Data Factory is to play an important role in actually doing that, in making that happen.
Which brings me to the fourth one, the iShare.
iShare has the ambition to solve one of these barriers for sharing data, because if you want to share data, it's important to know who you are and what type of data you can see. And for that purpose, we want to come up with a solution, iShare. We're going to discuss it later. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so those are the 4 topics which you will hear during this final discussion with Michiel, it was Albert Veenstra, Haarman. Thank you, Michiel, Haarman, Albert Veenstra. Have fun and good luck, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for the introduction.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good. Well, gentlemen, I think before we can really discuss those topics, it's one important issue that was brought up by you and by the interviewer, is that it's all about trust. And very important is that if you don't know what you're sharing, what kind of data you're sharing, and you don't know what somebody else is doing with that, it's not going to work. So you should have some trust, because you know what another person or another company is going to do with your information, with your data. So that's the key issue, I think, for all the 4 topics, is that we really can prove and show what advantages are of sharing data. Yeah. And I think what we see here, all those young people working at the Hackathon, they are giving demonstrations of what you can achieve if you combine data, in case you don't have this mistrust. But suppose you can share it all together, no problem, what will happen?
One of the first barriers that are going to be taken away immediately if you want to share data is, in my opinion, if you can earn money with it. And that's exactly what these guys, of course, are looking for. Yeah. They're looking into different sources of data and a smart way to combine certain types of data, and then hopefully some genius idea will pop up which will bring more efficiency or more added value, and somebody will earn money with it. And then, of course, the data sharing has a goal, earning money.
Right.
That's the easy one.
Yes.
The true challenge is, if not immediately is clear where the benefits are, or a different example, if not immediately is clear how we're going to share the benefit. If we earn €1, are we going to split it 50-50?
Yeah.
Or another difficult one is what we run into, the legal barriers.
Right.
Of course, as we know, our customs, they sit on a lot of data, but they are legally not able to spread that data into the world. Right. They can only give data back to the party that's provided that in the first instance to them. So there are a lot of things to overcome if you want to start sharing data. Well, I agree. Yeah.
Well, so I guess the solution that we try to follow in the top sector is that apart from doing a lot of research and gathering a lot of knowledge, we also need to show the industry that certain things are possible. And that will break a lot of ground, I think, if you say, okay, data sharing is not throwing your data out of the window for everybody to see. No, data sharing is a very carefully crafted solution where you are in full control of what everybody else, who you are allowing to see the data, will do with it. Then I think that will also help build trust and sort of adopt these kinds of solutions in the industry.
And I think we saw some excellent examples last year in the previous hackathon. I remember one very clearly. We were in the jury last year as well. That was this very young guys. I think they were just in high school, still in high school, and they made this app that you had. It were ships with dangerous goods, and you could determine, let's say, the total risk that was generated because a number of ships were together in a small area. So all owners of the dangerous goods, of the cargo, they know their own ship with the dangerous goods, but they don't know it from each other. Yeah. So you have all kind of dangerous goods going behind in each other's vicinity.
Transformed into a business solution.
They work on that. They work on that, but there you see a kind of, let's say, societal benefit, because you all know the danger that you get by having a number of those ships next to each other. That was a great example that I remember of last year, how you can have a societal but also a commercial benefit by combining some data that's not confidential. It's not everybody knows that the ships with dangerous goods, but adding that in a proper way and show the users and the environment what kind of danger you have, I think that's a brilliant example of sharing data and see a benefit out of that.
Yeah, and what is this smart data factory what type of role is that smart data factory going to play in identifying solutions for sharing data?
The importance of the smart data factory, there are two things. First of all, it's the way of working. Because as we just discussed this example of the young hackers of last year and what the guys are up to today and tomorrow, is first of all you need to find, let's say, some good business sense. Hey? You should see a combination of companies and data flows that could give you something, that could bring something, just an added value if you combine that. And first of all, you should test with each other the trust, and let's see the possible business case that's there. And a good way to do that is using things like serious gaming. So you're not going to do it for real, but you're going to simulate in a qualitative way what kind of benefit you can get and how your role is going to change if you work together and exchange information in a specific way.
So it's starting with a smart type of hackathon? Sources of data, you combine it and see what type of business cases.
Let's say 4 or 5 different parties that work together. We did it many times, also at TNO, a lot of that work is happening, that you know that there are many ships that are reaching one terminal, so you know that if you don't know from each other who's going where and when, you'll be in each other's way. So if you can predict who is where, that's going to help you, that's for sure. So for the shipper, it's going to work, that's clear. But also for the terminal operations, so the guys at the quay that have to unload this vessel, it's important to know who is where, when and how.
But before you're explaining a sort of business case, can you be more specific of what smart data factory is going to be?
Yes, but this is part of the explanation. So first you have to try it with each other, have the different players, the stakeholders, talking together and working together, what kind of solution can you make? You simulate it and then you're going to build the actual pilots. Okay. So that's part of the smart data factory, is having a number of use cases, and you're going to look at the, let's say, the generics in each use case, how you can bring that to a higher level, like standardization of information, architecture, how you exchange information, what kind of security issues can you use in all different use cases. So you're not going to develop for every case every time, but you're going to reuse that information in a new use case. Besides, let's say, the generic aspects of a use case and a real application, you also have a number of modules that you can reuse, like billing, estimated time of arrival. A lot of modules, you use that in in a lot of different use cases. So how can you reuse that? So the smart data factory is about going to the next level. Instead of only doing use cases in a separate way, you combine them and you reuse all the information that you gained per experiment, but especially you go to a specific generic architecture of exchanging information and data formatting. And also a lot of things happening in the neutral logistics information platform is of importance, of course. Who is who can see what, all this kind of information, what you need as well. So that's a great combination.
This model, so this is a new model, a new innovation model, you could say, in a sense. But is that something that will always stay in the innovation space, or will it eventually become a business to run it like that, and to provide like a makership sort of facility where you say, no, we make that available and it's actually it earns its own money because there is a need for this kind of facility.
It has to. It has to. If it stays in the innovation phase only, it only costs money, and there's a limited number of users that's actually going to do business with it. So you have to go to a next level that IT companies can exploit it, that there are service providers that can make business out of it. So you have to bring it to the next phase. But before that, you have to try and test and find common grounds, how you can find, let's say, added value of sharing data in different applications, but try and use it as quickly as you can.
How is Smart Data Factory funded? Who's going to pay for this idea of improved data sharing in the logistics industry?
Yeah, well, the use case are funded by the top sector logistics, by Smartport. So our two companies are investing in this, or our two institutes. But I think that's the most important aspect. Private companies are investing in cash,
They truly
in
believe
kind.
that there's a benefit to gain.
That's the only way of showing your commitment is that you're in there and the pain and the gain is yours. So you invest and you get the advantage. So you have to be involved with your data sets in this secluded area. You have to be involved with money, so researchers can really work on your problem, and you have to invest in kind. Your people has to explain how your business works and how you can improve it. So it's funded by government, via economic affairs, via the top sector logistics. It's co-funded by actual companies. It's co-funded by research institutes and also by institutes like Smartport that's funded by the board of...
Are you guys also looking at blockchain?
Yes.
As one of the solutions for adopting into this smart data factory or not? Or is that you?
Well, we are currently developing a project on blockchain, which follows more or less the same pattern, because everybody has heard the term, but nobody really knows what it is.
Yep.
And that is actually truer than it sounds. Even the researchers cannot really explain properly what blockchain exactly, how it works in really technical details. So what we thought was, well, we need to start somewhere, so let's try to get some people around the table and develop some demonstrators on the existing blockchain platforms. So IBM has a platform, there are a few other, the TU Delft has a proprietary platform, which is all open source, but they have an environment in which you can experiment. Let's try to bring some of those together, let's develop some of the use cases, and let's see where we can go with this idea.
Yeah.
But if scientists are not yet able to explain it to me like a normal logistics guy what it is, isn't it then a bit too early to put your money in blockchain as a mean to share data?
Well, from an innovation funding point of view, I would say, okay, we also need some funding for fundamental research. And there are people working on that as well. We need to do a lot of more fundamental research to really understand these mechanisms and the encryption technology that is behind it, the ledger, the distributed ledger type of mathematics and how that's going to work.
Are we able already to explain what problem blockchain is solving? What is it?
Well,
what is it bringing us?
In essence, a blockchain is a distributed ledger. So it is a recording system, basically, for transactions, right? For exchanges, and it's used. That's why it's used for Bitcoin, because there you exchange virtual money, and you keep with the blockchain. You keep track of who has been paying what to whom, in both a transparent but also a very secure way. So the transaction cannot be changed by hacking into this.
And did I understood correctly that it is so secure because everybody knows what is happening because it's all distributed? Is that it?
Yeah, that's part of the security.
So it does not have the need anymore for a central institute.
No, exactly.
To control all these transactions, you can actually decentralize.
This idea of peer-to-peer connectivity is the future anyway, because 5G or the next sort of telecom architecture is also peer-to-peer communication. So it's very much, I think, the next step in terms of constructing networks and constructing exchanges. But we still need to investigate a lot how this can really work. The idea we had in logistics was, okay, logistics is not per se a money business. It's not exchanging money. That's part of it, but not all of it. It's a contracting business, right? A logistics chain is basically a set of contracts between different parties. A sales contract, a transport contract, a subcontracting type of arrangement. So you can describe logistics chains as a set of contracts. And these contracts, transactions, can be laid down in the architecture of the blockchain. That's the idea.
Right.
But still, this is a nice idea, but it is as far as it goes. You need to show in particular circumstances how this is really going to materialize.
And it works in the Bitcoin, and of course with some flaws left and right, but there are also flaws in normal banking.
Bitcoin is a bit unclear because nobody really knows how it works. It's also a bit unclear because there are some stories about the hacking, and there is some hacking going on in the Bitcoin.
At the endpoints.
But in the original old-fashioned banks were robbed as well. So what's the big difference?
So, but Michiel, when we talk about distributed trust, that's what you do in transactions. You don't need a central player anymore. And when I listen to the abbreviation of your institute, the Neutral Logistic Information Platform, that sounds a very centralistic institute. What are you doing with blockchain?
With this word platform?
Right.
If you look at the ambitions of the top sector logistics, the NLIP in particular, the central sound that comes from the word platform is a bit, how to say it, distracting. What we are looking for is a federative model, a decentralized model. It means that people can control, in fact, if you talk about data, people can control and must control their own data and know where to send it, or know exactly who's going to take that data from them to improve their own processes. So what we mean with federative is that all these decentral parties, that can be shipping companies, that can be agents, that can be terminals, shippers, whatever, they themselves need to have a mechanism for working together. If you, for example, if you want to remove the barrier of trust by exchanging money with each other, if I need an incentive for sharing my data, money is it's an old-fashioned but still a highly normal way to do that. If you want to have shippers and terminals exchange data in a decentralized manner, you also have to provide them with the tools for sharing perhaps some money. And of course you can use your old-fashioned banks for transferring money, but that's not simple in logistics. Let me give you an example. If you want to, platooning is a hot topic in the road industry. But for making platooning effective, trucks need to start sharing information. And of course everybody understands that if we drive close together, next to each other, or no, behind each other of course, the ones who are second and third and fourth in line save money because they run their cars more efficiently, they use less fuel. The one up front pays the bill for the fuel. So before starting to drive in a platoon, you need to discuss the way how to share that earned euros by the cars driving behind you, but you are the one up front spending the most money. So of course you can come up with great solutions of sharing data to technically create a proper driving platoon. That's not the issue. No. The issue that needs to be solved as well is come up with a federative solution between all these different truckers to share that earned euro. Right. That's what we mean with a platform. You need to come up with solutions for exchanging data, but that can be exchanging money as well. And before you are able to do that, there's one building block that is essential, and that is what we try to provide with the iShare project. I need to know who you are and what you can do with my data. Right. And that is the ambition of iShare. We want to create a platform, that old-fashioned word, a federative solution, a digital passport, you name it as you want it, that provides a solution for identity and authentication. Who are you and what can you do? And that should be decentralized as well, because everybody needs to be in control of their own data. Right. So that's what we're trying to do.
You talk about identity and authentication.
Yeah.
But does this authentication carry in itself this idea of that there are different ways of using the data, and that you have to identify that as well before you can actually agree on sharing data?
Yeah, you have to come up with a solution, because first I need to know that you are Albert Veenstra. Yeah. Because otherwise we cannot exchange money or have a contract or so I need to have a proper tool for knowing for sure that you're Albert. But then on top of that I need to come up with a solution on how we are going to agree together which parts of my data you can actually see. And that can be different from day to day, because Today, I allow you to see my real-time terminal data because you are a trucker and you want to know at what time the container is free for clearance, is cleared. But perhaps tomorrow I don't want to give you that information anymore because you started working for a competitor of mine. So it needs to be real-time, it needs to be dynamic. So yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a nice example, the platooning, just as it's something you can imagine what it is, just a train of trucks on the road, a new kind of modality that you have. But let me give you some insight in the new development we have in the port of Rotterdam here. It's called the Roadmap Next Economy of Jeremy Rifkin. Maybe you heard about that. It's a big initiative in this area of the Netherlands. It's about how we can earn our money in, let's say, 2030 and beyond. And one of the projects we're going to do is directly related to this. And that we want to have 100 truck platoons per day leaving the port of Rotterdam in 2020. So that's pretty quick. And what does it mean? I mean, the first platoon of trucks, you had our minister waving behind the wheel, and that was a great photo moment and a lot of press. So that's a good way to profile yourself as a company. But in 2020, when you have 100 truck platoons per day of each, let's say 5 trucks, so that's 500 trucks per day, it's not 500 times the minister that's going to wave and press, etc. No, it's 500 running business cases every day. So what do you need for that? And that's interesting, that's the link to this hackathon is, first of all, who's going to drive? Who's going where, and how can you really do the matchmaking? It's a kind of, let's say, truck tindering, as we call it inside. So how are you going to find each other so you can travel from Rotterdam to Venlo, for instance? So who will be there at that time, can match with you, and I know who's behind me. Exactly the trust as you just described. So I need to know who's behind me because I want to share the gain, or I want to send a bill to this guy because he's behind me and I'm in front.
Perhaps,
so that can be a case. So you need truck matching on the fly, preferably, so that you can really find each other, do the billing, etc. That's one thing. So you can use blockchain for that. The other thing, if you work on a platoon like that, and you can really prove and guarantee that you're with number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row in that sequence, and you travel from Rotterdam to Venlo, why can't you do your inspection and your trade facilitation in Venlo instead in Rotterdam? So you leave Rotterdam as a secure blockchain on wheels and go to Venlo.
I keep thinking about this truck tindering.
Stop listening after that.
Truck platooning is about saving fuel, so that's good. It's about saving money and cost of truckers and use the travel time and rest period in the proper way. And you have a new kind of logistic innovation, and you have a new modality.
In these platooning initiatives that come here from Rotterdam, does the Internet of Things play a role as well?
Yes, that's a great link. So we have blockchain involved, we have sharing data in a proper way, we have the security part of iShare in place, so all 3 there. And now the next step was how we can, what was your question?
Internet of Things.
Are we going to use physical
Internet of Things?
Physical radars, for example, or something to guide these platoons? Or
sure. So guiding is one thing, but finding each other, knowing at what time exactly you are at a certain part of a road, you need a very good prediction of your travel time, taking weather into account, traffic jams, other traffic, all kind of disturbances you have to take into account. So if you have to measure where you are, where your buddies are, your Tinder buddies are, so you can really do the matching properly. So yes, you have to measure a lot of information.
What's the issue then with the Internet of Things for getting it up and running? What's
well, Internet of Things assumes basically that all things, all devices, all loading units, all vehicles become connected to the internet, get an IP address basically. But that means that they also have to have something to communicate. So we need to rethink our complete way of organizing logistics if you have all this connectivity. And currently it's actually happening, because companies like Cisco like very much this idea of not only laptops have internet and Wi-Fi, but everything is Wi-Fi connected in the future. So they're actually doing this. So now you have cars, people's cars who are a Wi-Fi hotspot, and you will get a lot of other technology that will become connected. But let's assume a classic example is a vending machine, Coca-Cola vending machine. The vending machine goes empty and the vending machine starts noticing this and starts calling somebody to supply it, it has to call somebody. There has to be somebody listening to these devices who are all sort of screaming to each other and to everybody else, I need to go somewhere and I'm in a hurry now. This is the big question. How is this going to be organized? How are we going to develop all these distributed or centralized systems where we can listen to these packages and we can actually, there can actually be some activity based on what the package is emitting in terms of
you have to make it actionable
requirements.
But do you think that the government has an obligation to put transponders in every new road it is building, or in every railway it's starting, or in every port of the new harbor? Is that
could be government, or
because who else is going to pay for it?
Well, I think the big problem with this kind of infrastructure, because you need a digital infrastructure, you need the communication. 4G it's not going to work. 5G maybe is the Wi-Fi P or LTE. Those kind of technologies can be used. You need it anyway if you want to drive automatically. You need that kind of digital infrastructure. Do it properly, and when you have it, use it also for all kind of services. Because you have this infrastructure, economy will follow. But the infrastructure itself, if you have to pay that back from only one example, being the truck platooning, for instance, it's not going to work. It's like UMTS. When UMTS was introduced in the Netherlands, I remember that KPN said, well, if every customer pays more than 6,000 euros per year as data cost, then it's covered. And I thought that's quite a lot of money. That's the only thing I thought. And indeed, so every business case is dead if you have to pay back the infrastructure within, let's say, 10 years. So you need to find a financial construction that you build it as a nutsvoorziening, as a general infrastructure, public utility. And institutes and companies like a port, but also a national government can pay for that. But you have to make a business model is that you have a pay-per-use system, for instance.
Like we have for our roads.
Like you have for your road, So you pay how much you use it, then you pay back. But you don't have to pay the full infrastructure based on your only business case, because you want to pay it back based on the volume that you can create because you have this infrastructure. So if you have a great Wi-Fi infrastructure along the highways in the Netherlands, you have to think about all the things you can do when you have that. So suppose you have this infrastructure, what can you do with it? Platooning, exchange information, make sure that my heating at home is on because I'm driving here. All those kind of links is what you can make. It's economy that follows infrastructure, but if you don't have the infrastructure, it's not going to work. So that's part of this roadmap next economy, how you can get funding. And there's a lot of funding for this kind of things available with a very flexible end condition of your loan, but you have to pay it back. It's very flexible at the end, how you pay.
Is this also a dimension in the ambition of the Port of Rotterdam to become the smart port?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, being the smartest means that you make the most money. And being the biggest doesn't mean that you make the most money. And that was the old-fashioned way.
So that's the definition what we're using? Smartest port, biggest money maker?
Well, to use it in the smartest way. That's what you want to do, and that can be make a lot of money, but also can be adding a lot of value. You also have a societal aspect. So it's not only about making money.
Environmental.
All kind of ways that makes value. So it's not money that will be too superficial.
Making money doesn't yet mean that the port is going to invest in a lot of this fancy infrastructure.
Right. So if you look at the main problem underlying at all the transitions that we have in this port area, it's about matching demand and supply, that's one thing, and it's having a limited capacity. So if you look at logistics, you want to move more goods in a more reliable way, so you need a good capacity of your road, train and water. So you have to use it in a smart way. That means that you know from each other who's going where, when, how and why. If you can answer those questions, that's your big data question that's behind it. Then you can optimize your logistics flow depending on the capacity that you have, without building new capacity, because that's quite old-fashioned, and I believe there's plenty of potential in the current infrastructure, so you don't have to do that. That holds for logistics, that holds for energy. It also goes to one big wire. You have a lot of users, a lot of generators. It goes to one wire. How can you optimize demand and supply there? So the smart port is about optimizing all those users and generators for cargo, for energy, for waste, for circular economy, for wastewater, all kind of things. And if you do that in a smart way by combining them in a digital way, then you have your smart port.
Okay. Hey, and Albert, we've been, you as well, been walking around this afternoon here. Have you already seen some beginnings of a brilliant idea popping up that's going to help us in sharing more data?
Well,
or is it too early? Or are we going to check?
We're going to check, and especially
we are going to
juries
see tomorrow, I think,
Right.
what comes out.
But three things I noticed when I entered today is, first of all, there are many more teams than last year, so it's really
That's
growing.
That's fun. Yep.
Last year, the year before, so it's really growing a lot. That's good. Second thing is that it's much more international. So I see teams from Singapore, because the MPA, the Maritime Port Authority, is involved now as well. So it has an international degree.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing that I see is that many young people, and a few I saw before. So people are very interested in coming back and try it again because there's new data, better ideas, more challenge, more competition. So three things that were very good to see.
Yeah.
Are you looking for something particular if you walk down in a few minutes from
it
now?
would be nice to be surprised by, because we have been in the business also of thinking up new solutions for some of the well-known challenges in the port. So it would be nice if there are some ideas that you think, wow, I never thought of that, and that is a really good idea. And some of the previous hackathons have really shown some of those ideas, be it about communication and using all the internet communication facilities, or 2 years ago we still had a lot of interest in Google Glass, but also creates a lot of interesting applications that you would not probably think up yourself. So that will really be what I'm looking for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is those sort of solutions where you think, wow, this is really innovative and interesting to pursue.
And it's your first time, huh?
Yeah, it's my first
You're
time
Hackathon
here.
virgin.
I'm a Rotterdam Hackathon.
Hackathon
Yeah, I'm a
virgin.
Rotterdam Hackathon virgin. But what I really hope for is that if you guys tomorrow decide which one of these brilliant teams is going to be the winners, it's going to be an idea that's going to show that it's easy to remove the barriers of sharing data. So that might be an idea that's going to make a lot of money, or it might be an idea that's so refreshing and new that all people want to participate because it's good for the environment or something else. So I hope it's going to be an idea that we hear from in 2017 in a commercial manner, or in an environmental good way. That's what I hope for.
Okay. Well, there's a Smart Port prize, so I think we're going to link that to your ambition.
Cool.
Excellent.
Hey, guys, thank you for sharing data.
Yeah. Well,
Sharing.
Thanks.
thank you very much.
Yes,
Nice.
sharing data.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, we're done. Thanks, guys.